always had a problem with dragons in Fire Emblem Heroes. I never really knew how to use them well. I mean, Maui ended up being pretty good, but I mean, even then, she wasn't like absolutely brutal. Then they tried to use adult Tiki, and she just didn't have enough oomph, and then they tried to use young Tiki, and she was pretty useless except for outside of BST and arena points, and I just couldn't figure it out. And what's with this having Dragon Emblem? What, they get like one fortify buff and all of a sudden it's Dragon Emblem? Like one unifying aspect is all you need in order to have your own emblem on something. It's like, gosh, like Brave Weapon Emblem, you know? Just, that's half the meta anyway. Why not have Brave Weapon Emblem? So I was confused for a long time, but then I figured out that Dragon Emblem is actually not so different from another emblem in this game. So you and I are going to harness the power of dragons right now. Greetings and salutations, my name is Deltran, helping you build killing machines so you can dominate in PvP and in special hero maps, and if you want help earning all the orbs, feathers, sacred coins, refining stones, everything this game throws at you every week, consider subscribing. Welcome to another episode of Best Fire Emblem Hero Teams, and before we get into this, we need to set some ground rules, because what's best for me might be an enchilada with a side of rice, what's best for you might be spicy curry with some naan, so let's go ahead and get some objectivity to this. Rule number one, the team we're making has to be viable in PvP. They have to be able to answer everything in the current meta, at least as of recording this, and hopefully that means they're easily adaptable for anything to come. That also means that they need to have a flex spot, a unit on the team that can be removed so that you can sub them in with a different bonus hero for the arena, because you're not going to just be missing out on points. Rule number two is that resources don't matter. We can spend as many limited time units that don't exist anymore or come out in banners anymore. Doesn't matter. We get to use as much as we need to as long as we are making the best Fire Emblem team that we can. And rule number three is that they have to have a theme or a shtick, something that unifies them, something to make sure that we are building this team with a focus in mind. And the focus for this one is Dragon Emblem. So I'm going to be making a team of 4 dragons, using the other dragons I don't mainline as substitutions for this, and we'll be able to see what the flex spot is going to have so that we can actually figure out what we could sub in there for that flex spot once it comes time for arena. Gosh, I would absolutely love to have a dragon come up on a new banner, and it will happen, but it's not going to happen often. And real quick, since it's a new feature as of recording, I want to talk about the weapon Refinery real brief and how it relates to the Dragon Breath weapons. Every Dragon Breath weapon is upgradable in the Refinery, which means they all get a boost. They all get enhanced abilities, and there will be a card right over here talking about the Breath weapons enhancements whenever they pop up. But every Breath weapon shares 2 common traits once they're upgraded. One, each breath weapon will deal its damage against defense or resistance, whichever is lower if the target is hitting from 2 spaces away. And now currently there's no ranged breath weapons with this on it, so that means whenever they retaliate with distant counter or using lightning breath, they're gonna get to hit against a weaker defense. The second thing they all have in common is that they get to upgrade your might or attack, speed, defense, or resistance based upon which one you pick. So there is a branching effect there. So we're going to be going over which one I choose for each of these builds. And as I mentioned, the full text of each of these breath weapons, including their new modified effect, is going to be posted up. Let's start with Maui. She could be built into a wonderful, wonderful wall that bites back. And remember, dragons have gigantic mouths with sharp, sharp teeth. Maui has great stats, a wonderful BST, everything's perfect, and just to set us up here, so it's a very easy choice to make sure that we're mainlining Maui. She comes equipped with Lightning Breath Plus at 5-star, so we're just going to go ahead and use that, and we're going to upgrade that and give her the plus defense option. It's sort of popular to give her plus resistance, and we'll talk about why plus resistance is a great idea, but why we're going to win so hard using plus defense. Aether is here as our special, because Steady Breath is here as well, so we're going to be charging up Aether super, super quick, so that we're going to be healing and spiking damage. It's just wonderful. So this solid defender can attack at a range whenever she's initiated on, so we're going to go a quick riposte to patch up that pretty abysmal speed score. I'm going to put an asterisk here though, and we will talk about that whenever we get to the the end whenever we're talking about our flex units, but Quick Riposte is gonna just dominate for us. Naui is the first dragon that I ever had a lot of success with in the game. She's wonderful not just in Dragon Emblem, anywhere. You can put her practically in any team and she's gonna stop units dead. It's amazing. You don't even have to build them as strong as this, but let me tell you something. If you don't have a Naui built up, get one. Now let's talk about the matchups that Naui takes care of for us in the DPT and the obituaries here. 6 and 7 on initiation. That's not great. I mean, there's a few people we knock out, you know. We take care of an Arden and an Ike. So yeah, whoop-de-doo, you know. But when it comes down to it, nothing too impressive here. As far as people that punk us down whenever we initiate, mostly green, so I hope you're not too surprised about that. So let's talk about what happens whenever people initiate on us and why we have plus defense and what seal we're going to use. So the big thing about Naui's breath weapon is if you give her plus resistance, it lets her natively defend against the Reinhardt, which is great. If you go with plus defense, it's not going to do it, but she actually has more matchups that she defends against. Well, inside our specialized Dragon Emblem team, you could easily leverage both just by giving her a Deflect Magic seal. If you give her the Deflect Magic seal, she can block the Reinhardt, kill it, and then still take on all these other comers. I mean, take a look at this list of people we're killing. We're getting rid of Brave Lyn and Black Knight when they initiate on us. Tana, that's absolutely wonderful. We're also getting rid of a bunch of other red, you know, Mia and Celica and the Reinhardt. And then, of course, another thing to mention here is so we are getting rid of Ryoma and Ike and Xander, which is great. Everything that we would expect. No, we're not getting rid of any green, but, you know, we're just not supposed to be blocking on that. There are several units that we just bounced that we could bounce now that we're plus defense with our breath weapon. If we weren't, we'd be losing to a lot of brave weapon users, especially blue brave weapon users, would just come out of the blue, haha. Oh, bad dad joke, and would just wreck us. So that's why we're going plus defense and then giving her the deflect sacred seal. Great substitution for Naui, if you don't have one, is female Corrin. She's actually a really wonderful unit. I don't believe that there's room to have both on the same Dragon Emblem team. It's just too heavy on that particular aspect, but if you give her a similar build, keep her Dark Breath. This is fun. This is a little bit more fiddly, actually, which is another reason why I did not mainline her, but she's still wonderful. Her Dark Breath, whenever she initiates combat, whenever she gets hit in combat, whenever combat happens involving her, she will go ahead and debuff everybody. It's wonderful. I love it. That's going to save you quite a lot. And this actually gets me thinking about the different emblems in the game. No other emblem relies on you debuffing the enemy. This has been something that has been in the game for Dragon Emblem, not exclusively. You know, you can put female Corrin in any team you want, but if you have female Corrin on the field in your Dragon Emblem team, she's not buffing people, she's debuffing everybody else. And this has been in the game for, you know, since the beginning. Not as potent, but it's been there, and so that's something that you really need to leverage here. No other emblem team does that in that fashion. There's dagger users, but I mean, it's not like dagger emblems a thing. Everybody sort of ignores them until they need to come up with a very specialized task. So female Corrin here is going to go ahead and wreck everybody's defenses and make sure that everybody standing behind her can chew through the opposition really quickly, because you need to. Once you're standing there out in the open, you're going to take a lot of hits, and you can't really afford that. Now, we have Aether on this build too, as well. Even without steady breath, I like it for the arena points. She could take quite a few hits, to be quite honest with you, so she can have some endurance there. If you'd much rather, you can go ahead and substitute that out for Ignis, for Bonfire, whatever you want to do. She does come with Draconic Aura, which is a good substitution that you could keep, but honestly you're going to get more bang for the buck with something that keys off of her defense. Let's take a look at her obituaries whenever you are attacked. 17 and 10, not as good as Naui, but once again, we are doing something really special here. We're able to debuff the entire enemy field pretty much, especially once they start clustering up around you. If you do the pooling right, a lot of people will probably end up coming towards you anyway, So I mean, that's a good way to go. And with the distant counter, it's really nice that you'll probably go ahead and chump block somebody, maybe even bait a ranged unit into hitting you first before they all start to move, and then you're going to be able to debuff them while they go off and do whatever the heck it is that the AI thinks is a smart idea at the time. So we get Brave Lynn, and we get the Reinhardt with the Deflect Magic Sacred Seal. We need that. We also get rid of a bunch of other red units that we're expecting to, a lot of other blue units that we're expecting to, and we can chump block all kinds of archers. So, I mean, hey, we're doing great, right? This is a decent substitution, changes the playstyle a little bit. Now he's a little more straightforward, Corrin's a little more fiddly, but does give you more options and more flexibility if things start to go south for you in a fight. The next hero we're going to look at for our main line is Adult Tiki. This particular build is a player phase build. It still has Lightning Breath on it, so we can still catch some things. But you know what? We have some scary numbers here because we have life and death on here. So we still have 30 defense, but we have 19 resistance here. This is all at neutral IVs, by the way. You probably want an attack IV on this particular build, but we're going to go ahead and evaluate it at neutral IVs and, you know, adjust your expectations for the IV set you have. But even with minus resistance as an IV, you're still going to be doing alright. This is a Brash Assault build. The idea is that we want to catch one big hit and then we're off to the races. And if we are plus attack, and if we do get a buff from somewhere, which we're going to look at here in our supports in just a moment, you're going to get a lot of results out of her. So before we're all charged up on initiation, you know, 14, not bad. The other side is looking a little thin, but that's okay. There's a lot of good units that we can bounce and just kill on initiation that'll whittle down our hit points. And on the other side, whenever we don't initiate, whenever we're initiated on, there's a lot of units that we bounce and can kill. We can even take an Aethered up Brave Ike. So when it comes down to it, we have a lot of meat to ourselves, and we can really block all those greens, which is fantastic, especially since Maui or female Corrin aren't going to be doing that for us. Now let's take a look at this. Once we are charged up, we're killing so many people on the field that it is fun. And like I said, if you are plus attack and if you have a little bit of support, you don't even need a live, just a little bit more support, the number of units that you're killing is amazing. You're only leaving people like Effie on the field, and anybody with a Sapphire Lance. That's who you're leaving alone if you can get her really supported. Otherwise, if you have her do her own thing, which may happen once in a while, you can still make her take care of quite a lot of people on the field. I'm just going to let these obituary pages speak for themselves. They're quite amazing. I've always had a problem getting Adult Tiki to work, and the Brash Assault Seal is basically the best thing you can do with her. There's other things you can do with her, but in my opinion it's the best, because one, it's player phase. You can initiate, you can control what is happening, and while you have to reduce your hit point load there, you could do reciprocal aid. She has plenty of hit points. You can restore somebody's health that way, or you could go ahead and just take that one big hit and go off on your own. There's a lot of utility here. Her substitution is Young Tiki. Surprise! She plays completely differently as well, much like Corrin played completely differently from Maui. She is an enemy phase unit, and honestly, there's some good perks here, probably enough that make most people watching this say, no, you don't want to run Adult Tiki, you want to run Young Tiki. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what we're doing. We're getting rid of Flame Tongue. We're putting in Lightning Breath. That works out so much better than just giving her distant counter. The bulk of Flame Tongue just doesn't do enough for us. Otherwise, it's just a quick riposte build. There's nothing fancy here. Whenever we initiate 11 and 13, that's nice, but it's whenever we are being hit first that we really shine. 18 wins in this case. We can even catch a moderately buffed Deirdre, which is great. I love that. You can reliably catch all kinds of green mages. Once in a while, if you have the support, you can also do some red mages rather easily too, or at least not die to them. The idea here is that you are basically going back to an enemy phase build. Nothing special. It really is quite boring in a way, but it's also very reliable, a lot more reliable than the Adult Tiki build. Now we're moving into the supporting characters on this, and as you take a look at these, like I said, look at both of the builds for these dragons and listen to what is being done with them, so that way you can easily substitute whoever you need to whenever it comes time to get arena point. First up is Fa, and this is also basically a no frills quick riposte build, but there are a few small gotchas here. Whenever we refine her breath, and we're keeping light breath, this is the thing, is that we need her to help buff us. There's a lot of safe fights that she can deal with that will let her buff our party, and sometimes it's just what we need. If we buff up the adult Tiki build we saw earlier, if we buff up the Maui build we saw earlier, both of those actually go quite far with that. So by giving them that buff, we're going to be really enabling them to just completely dominate and get us out of some tight spots, especially if the AI does something that maybe we didn't anticipate. So with this particular build, it looks very vanilla, but it has a lot of power in it that between keeping light breath and upgrading that to plus speed. The reason why we do that, we're going to see here going into the obituaries. If we do that whenever we are blocking, then we can actually bounce a Black Knight. Otherwise, Black Knight doubles us, and being able to just have that nice counter to Black Knight that is off color really does make this build shine. It is supposed to be a safe haven. There's not a lot of wins here, and there are a lot of losses too when it comes down to it, but this particular build is shoring up different weaknesses that we had across the rest of the team. And also, if your blue units are tied up, whether they're blocking other blue units or blocking red units, sometimes you just need to have that extra defensive power nearby so that you can help compensate for things, because adult Tiki definitely isn't doing that for us. Last build we have is Ninian. I bet you're wondering why I didn't mainline this. Well, there's a couple reasons why. First of all, the two units that I did mainline and their subs are a very viable team on their own. They can stand very well, and that's why all these other people are subs. It's because you need to have some combination of those four on your team. You don't need a dancer with these dragons. These dragons are amazing because every single one of them is leveraging the ability to hit off of whatever the weaker defensive stat is. So whenever you take that into account, you don't need to have Ninian on your team. Now, Ninian is a fantastic addition, and you have plenty of stopping power for blue. You don't need Fa if you have to get rid of her in order to put in Ninian. That's absolutely fine. The big benefit here with this Ninian build is where we talked about earlier, where I said on Maui that, hey, there's a little asterisk here on quick riposte. Ninian is patching up a problem, and that problem is falchion users. Those stupid sword lords will kill us. Even all of our blue dragons, it's terrible. But if you have somebody with Swordbreaker on a blue, that's a blue unit, you'll be able to help combat that. And this Ninian lives through all the sword lords in the game right now that use falchion whenever you do this. As a matter of fact, she bounces pretty much any sword unit. There are exceptions, but otherwise, we are fantastic in that regard. We can dance people, we can do that block, and when we do that block, we're buffing everybody else for the turn, which may help us out. You could also have her initiate so that you can buff up your own team on your turn if that's going to get you the better leverage. If you're like really close to death and you just need some buffs, that's what this is for. And this is where I come to the conclusion that, for the most part, every single unit here has a great distant counter. Every single unit here is leveraging buffs, and there's only one team that matches that to a T in my mind, and that's Armor Emblem. So many people put distant counter on all the armor units because they're so slow, so plodding, and they have a great defense. But if they don't capitalize on every initiation, regardless of who does it, your Armor Emblem team's going to fall down. If you don't capitalize on every buff, your Armor Emblem team's going to fall down. There are a couple exceptions here and there, like Black Knight can usually go on his own for a little bit, now he can usually go on her own for a little bit, but you know what, a Horsey Emblem team and a Fire Emblem team, both of those teams have units that could just do whatever they want more frequently than the rest. Buffs are important for those kind of emblems, but you know what, when it comes down to armor, and specifically Dragon Emblem, you need to stack all these things, and that was something that just wasn't completely possible before. There's the roots of it there before with the different defense that Ninian offered to the table, and with giving everybody lightning breath basically, or distant counter if you wanted to keep the other stuff, but the other breath weapons were complete garbage before the Refinery upgrade. Now is a good time to jump into Dragon Emblem. If you haven't done it yet, like I said, go get a Maui. She's wonderful. You will not regret it. Do me a favor, if you like your Fire Emblem information hot and fresh like grandma's cookies, hit that subscribe button. My name is Deltran. Thank you guys so much. I greatly appreciate all of you, and until next time, take it easy. I mean, why not have Bad Luck Emblem? It's just 4 Bartras. That's it.